Before history was written, long before humanity took its first breath, Earth was a different planet. The air was thicker, the colors were more vivid, and the silence was heavier than today. This world did not belong to us. We did not set the rules. This was an age when gods walked the earth, the age of giants. For millions of years, they were the architects of an ecosystem we can barely imagine. And at the top of this dynasty, there was one name that echoes loudest through the corridors of time. Tyrannosaurus Rex, the king of the tyrant lizards. 12 meters long and 9 tons in weight, it was a pure killing machine created by nature. Its jaws were so powerful that a single bite exerted nearly 6 tons of pressure. To understand this force, think of it this way: the weight of an adult elephant sitting on you. Its teeth were banana-sized daggers, evolved not to slice, but to crush bone and pierce armor. But being at the top doesn't mean you are invincible. A king's life was hard. Fossils show that most T-Rexes died before age 30, their bodies riddled with countless fractures and infection. There was only one creature that could challenge the T-Rex's dominance in this savage world. Triceratops, the armored fortress of the Cretaceous period. At 9 meters long and weighing 10 tons, the Triceratops was actually heavier even than its predator, the T-Rex. That curved beak at the tip of its mouth could shear through the toughest palm trees like scissors. But its true power lay in that massive, bony frill atop its head and its 3 horns. These horns were sharp enough to pierce through a T-Rex's belly or leg during an attack. Scientists believe they were territorial and aggressive, much like today's rhinoceroses. But the art of defense wasn't limited to horns. Sometimes the best defense is full body armor. Behold the Ankylosaurus, the walking tank of the Cretaceous period. Even its eyelids were covered in bony armor. It had almost no weak points. And at the tip of its tail lay one of the most brutal weapons evolution ever created: a bone sledgehammer. By swinging this tail in seconds, it could pulverize a predator's bones into dust. In this world ruled by brute force, there was another way to survive: intelligence. Velociraptors. Unlike in the movies, they weren't giant. They were about the size of a wolf. But don't let their size fool you. They were assassins, working with surgical precision. Their brains were quite large relative to their bodies. They could plan, communicate, and set ambushes. Their feather-covered bodies were proof that they were warm-blooded and highly energetic. Alone, they were fast, but as a pack, they were unstoppable. They didn't defeat their prey with brute force, but by tiring, bleeding, and confusing them. While the war on land raged on, a shadow would appear in the sky, as if the sun were eclipsed. Quetzalcoatlus. Standing as tall as a giraffe, the largest flying creature to ever exist. Its wingspan reached 11 meters. That is the same size as a small airplane. But when you looked down from the sky, you would see who the true owners of the world were. Argentinosaurus, the largest land animal to ever exist, a walking mountain made of flesh and bone. Its length exceeded 35 meters, and its weight approached 100 tons. This is equivalent to 15 African elephants. Keeping such a mass alive requires a marvel of biological engineering. Just to pump blood up that long neck to its brain, its heart was the size of a car. When its hatchlings emerged from the egg, they were no bigger than a soccer ball. But within 40 years, with an unimaginable growth rate, they would reach 100 tons. They were not just animals. They were giants carrying their own ecosystems, with birds nesting upon them. Now let's leave the forests and go to the riverbanks, to the dangerous edge of the water. On land, T-Rex might be king, but here, in the water, there was a completely different ruler. Spinosaurus. At 15 meters long, the only carnivore larger even than the T-Rex. The 2-meter sail on its back was its signature, perhaps to intimidate, perhaps to regulate heat. It was a semi-aquatic monster, hunting like a crocodile, tearing apart like a bear. Its long, narrow snout was like a biological trap evolved to snatch slippery fish. Nowhere was safe in the Cretaceous world. Not the forests, not the rivers, not the open plains. But nature's greatest weapon wasn't teeth or claws. Nature's weapon was change. But to fully understand this story, we must wind the clock back a bit further, to the golden age of the Jurassic period. Here lived a strange giant wearing a majestic crown on its back, Stegosaurus. Those massive plates on its back were made of bone, yet they were too fragile to be battle armor. Science suggests these plates would flush red to regulate body heat or to court members of their species. Its brain was only the size of a walnut. It was not a thinker, but a survival expert. Because the 4 sharp spikes it carried on its tail compensated for any lack of intelligence. This tail had the power to pierce through the leg of the lion of the Jurassic, the Allosaurus. Allosaurus, a hunter more agile and cunning than the T-Rex, living millions of years before it. Instead of biting its prey, it would use its upper jaw like a hatchet to strike its victim. This was a brutal tactic based on shock and blood loss. But the world of dinosaurs was not just a silent hunting ground. It was also a symphony. Parasaurolophus. That long crest on its head was a musical instrument. Using this hollow tube, they produced low-frequency sounds that could be heard from miles away. Was this a warning cry or a call to a lost calf? Their social bonds were strong. Their herds consisted of thousands of members moving as a single organism. They were the most successful herbivores the planet had ever seen. Their teeth were perfect mills for grinding plants. Yet, this diverse and massive empire of dinosaurs was unaware of the approaching darkness. Most dinosaurs would rest when the sun went down, but for some, the day was just beginning. A pair of glowing eyes in the darkness. Troodon. Relative to its body size, it possessed the largest brain of any known dinosaur. Its eyes were like massive lenses evolved for night vision. It was a deadly, nocturnal hunter that used intelligence and patience, not brute force. But this world wasn't just about predator and prey. Traces of compassion were also carved into stone. A name found in the arid lands of Montana changed everything. Maiasaura. Its name means good mother lizard. Evidence shows they didn't just abandon their eggs. They fed and protected their young until they were grown. These nesting grounds were like the first nurseries or cities where thousands of families lived together. Dinosaurs were not just cold-blooded killers. They were parents, social beings. Life flourished on this planet for 160 million years in every form, with every strategy. But the universe's rules are cruel. No rain lasts forever. A destiny from the depths of space, set in motion 66 million years ago, was approaching its rendezvous with Earth. This was no ordinary rock. It was a cosmic bullet the size of Mount Everest. Entering the atmosphere at 70,000 kilometers per hour, it set even the air in front of it on fire. The second it struck the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico, the world changed forever. The energy released was equivalent to billions of atomic bombs detonating at once. The Earth's crust liquefied, oceans evaporated, and the sky shattered. The shock wave radiating from the impact point flattened everything in its path. Even for dinosaurs thousands of miles away, this was not just a sound, but a wall of death. But the worst was yet to come. The real catastrophe was the fire raining from the sky. The atmosphere heated up like an oven. Temperatures on the ground reached hundreds of degrees. That day, the largest forest fires the planet had ever seen began and lasted for weeks. For the survivors, the sun vanished, never to rise again. Dust and ash spreading into the atmosphere plunged the world into a nuclear winter that would last for years. Plants died, herbivores starved, and the carnivores that ate them shared the same fate. A 160 million year reign ended in a cosmic blink of an eye. The age of giants was over. The stage now belonged to the small ones hiding in the shadows. This catastrophe was not an end, but actually our beginning. In the dusty pages of time, their bones remind us, we too are just guests on this planet.